Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Great Legal Minds. Today I have a senior counsel with me, Mr. Vivek Sood. Welcome to my show, Vivek.
It's a pleasure to be on this platform.
Thank you so much. So, you have been an ace criminal lawyer and you've started doing a lot of corporate work as well. So, I just wanted you to quickly tell me something about your journey. I mean, how it all started and, what all you do right now at this point of time.
I started my journey in the year 1992. I did my law from the Campus Law Center. I come from a family of lawyers. My father was a leading tax lawyer in Punjab. My grandfather was a leading civil lawyer in Pakistan, Lahore, and after partition in Punjab. But I started my journey on my own in the year 1992. Initially, I worked with stalwarts. I worked with Mr. Shardul Shroff initially. Then I worked with Mr. Mohanlal Verma. He had resigned from judgeship of the Delhi High Court.
Okay.
Then I went on to work with another stalwart, Mr. Kulwant Singh Bindra. He was known as the tiger of the bar. So after training for about 5 years, I started off. And, I followed certain mantras which were given to me by my seniors. That first of all, you try and build up 100 files in your office. And without looking at the fee, just build up a certain quantum of work, which I did. So I would never look at the fee. I would look at the file in front of me. And with that passion, the marathon started in 1992, and it's been 3 decades in the year 2022. In fact, I joined the bar in August 1992, and we are here in August.
So we can safely say this is the 30th anniversary of your practice.
30th anniversary.
And it's what an occasion to kind of have you on our platform on your 30th anniversary.
Thank you. Alongside the legal profession, I developed a passion for writing. Initially, I wrote, numerous articles and papers for newspapers and journals, and then I started authoring books. So that's a passion which I started in the year, I think, 1995 or 1996, and the passion is still burning, and I have just finished 6 books, and my 7th book is now going to come later this year.
Now, so being such a busy lawyer, I mean, this is my next question, that how do you really squeeze out time to write books? And in fact, some of your books were really good, and a lot of heavyweights, I saw giving forwards and, doing your book launches and all of that. My question to you is that, how do you really find time? I mean, you definitely got to be very passionate about it.
Aman, I am a workaholic. So time has to be carved out. I am a very busy lawyer. I have been very busy, not only as a senior counsel. Before I got designated also, I had loads of work all the time on the table. I was very fortunate that from very earlier on in the profession, I built up a huge quantum of work on the table. Now, but the passion takes over. So, when you have a passion, then you carve out time. So, my time for writing is, early morning. I wake up at about 4 a.m. in the morning, and I do my writing early in the morning. Then I carve out some time in the evening. I carve out a lot of time over the weekends. So, you have to find time for your passions.
Absolutely.
Or I would say, the time is naturally you are able to find time when you are passionate about anything.
I'm very sure about that, because you really got to be passionate, and that gets time for you. So now, in fact, one of the books that I saw you wrote was on privacy, and that's a matter of huge debate or conversations or even concern at the time where we live. Now, since I have a senior lawyer like you sitting with me, who has incidentally written on the book, Let me ask you a question on behalf of everyone. And the question is that, it's a very scary situation today. Like, for example, I'm sitting here and talking to you, my phone knows this. I've traveled the distance from my home to this place, my phone knows the distance, what I'm eating, when I'm sleeping, when I'm waking up, who I'm meeting with, where I'm going, how many steps I have traveled today, how's my health looking like. Somebody knows everything about me. And honestly speaking, I cannot do anything about it, or can I? That's the question number one. Um, and the second question is that, what are the rights we have against all these things?
I have extensively written about issues with respect to privacy, especially virtual privacy, in my book titled The Right to Privacy, Arguing for the People. Now, the right to privacy has been recognized as a fundamental right by the Supreme Court in the famous Puttaswamy's case. So, right to privacy is part of right to life and liberty. It is the fundamental right of every citizen of India today. But the practical implementation of the right is the real question. It is a complex question. It is not easy to implement the right to privacy in the virtual world where, as you said, that you are leaving digital footprints 24/7.
Absolutely.
And digital profiling is happening.
Yeah.
Commercially, it is happening. Commercial enterprises are doing it for their vested interests. The government agencies may do it. The law enforcement agencies may do it. And internet is a public platform. So it leaves its digital footprints. Now, insofar as the implementation of this right is concerned, every individual must become conscious of this right to privacy. That I enjoy this right to privacy, and therefore I must start enforcing it.
So how do you
It
enforce?
means
That's the main
it means
question.
it means it means it's a complex subject. It's a I'll have to go into detail.
But let me ask you. Yeah, please.
But may I say,
Yeah.
first of all, you become conscious. Secondly, things that are private to you, keep them in the private zone. Keep them in your locker, in your digital locker, or don't bring them in the public domain. At least be conscious of the vulnerabilities of the virtual world. Be conscious of that. Your family time, your family pictures, etc., etc. You must
So you have
maintain
to
that privacy.
you have to put them on cloud to optimize the storage. Otherwise, there are so many pictures that you are clicking that you cannot keep it on a hard drive. So that's the thing.
Yes.
And the moment you do that, it's all there, like in somebody else's knowledge.
So
the practicality
see,
is,
privacy, in my view, starts from the individual, first of all. Now, an individual has his own limitations. Therefore, the state agencies will have to step in. So we had this bill, the Personal Data Protection Bill,
Right.
that was about to be converted into a law. But then some problems were seen in that law, and the law is being reworked by the government of India. I hope to see a comprehensive legislation implementing the right to privacy in our country. Having said so, till then, there are some provisions in the Information Technology Act with respect to right to privacy. Now, so therefore, awareness has to be spread across the society by the government agencies, by NGOs, by activists. Protect your privacy first and then enforce it. Go to the court. If your privacy is being violated by a commercial enterprise or a law enforcement agency, move the court, file a writ petition in the court. Be legally conscious of your right to privacy. It starts from the individual, in my view.
So the question is that, say, very often what happens is that, when we are signing up a software or when we are starting a phone, or when there is an update in our phones, there's a there's a big text that comes in the form of their policy and their license, and we just go and say I agree, because I cannot read that. And even if I can read it and I have a problem with it, I cannot disagree and still use my phone. These are the problems that we are left with no choice. That's where we are. So what can be done in that sense? And the other question that I wanted to check with you is that, so these people actually put together these agreements and all of that. Is they Are they vetted by any government agencies or something? I mean, because I will go ahead and sign that, but only if the government has said that, okay, these are the good things to kind of be signed and all of that, I'll be assured that this is fine. But otherwise, I have no way not to sign. It's like home loan agreement, which is so big that you get tired even just by signing it. Forget about reading them, and if you want that loan, you have to sign that. So these agreements are like that. So what do we do about it?
In my view, legislation must step into this scenario. We must have a comprehensive law. We must have a nodal agency. We must have an autonomous authority which will vet these contracts from the standpoint of the right to privacy. I don't want the state or the government to intervene in the drafting of contracts, but at least to the extent that the citizen's privacy is maintained. To that extent, we need autonomous bodies, autonomous authorities, and eventually legislation will have to step in. Now, may I just point out, these builder buyer agreements,
Yeah.
they were all one sided agreements made by the builder to
Right.
exploit the home buyers. Now, this has been recognized by the Supreme Court that these are one sided contracts, they are unconscionable contracts, unconscionable bargains, opposed to public policy. They are null and void. They cannot be implemented. They are exploitative in nature. So, similarly, that activism
Has to
must be
come in.
there with respect to
Yeah.
these contracts from the context, in the perspective and context of the right to privacy. So
Yeah.
I see legislation coming in due course. See, this government is proactive, and I'm sure they must be reworking the personal data protection law, and I'm sure, I hope we will see it in due course of time.
Yeah, great. I think that's a great suggestion, and I think that should be something that should be in the interest of common people in terms of protecting their right to privacy. Now, let me actually ask you another question. I see you doing a lot of work in white collar crime space as well as arbitration space. Now, my question to you with respect to white collar crime is that how do you see the current legal framework? Do you think it is actually adequate to prosecute all the big offenders, or do you think it's just catching the small fish and it's not actually being able to catch the big ones?
In my view, Aman, the legislative framework to deal with white collar crime is there. You have provisions in the Indian Penal Code, and you have the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and so you have a gamut of laws. You have SFIO, the Serious Frauds Office.
Investigation.
You have Economic Offences Wing.
Yeah.
You have the Cyber Wing, cyber enforcement agencies. So the legislative framework is there. And the law, in my view, the white collar crime law has caught up with the big fish, whether it's, the people who have run away from the country. I may not name them, but the law enforcement agencies are tracking them. They are trying to extradite them to India. So you have a gamut of laws, and law enforcement in India has caught up with the big fish. So it may not be fair to say that, the law enforcement agencies are always chasing only the smaller fish and the big fish are let out of the net. That is not correct. Having said this, there are rough edges, there are creases in the laws, in the implementation of laws. And see, no law is perfect, especially insofar as economic legislation is concerned. They are experimental in nature. The Supreme Court has said that the legislature, while legislating economic laws, must be given free play in the joints. You know, so the government of India, the parliament is working out, these laws.
Yeah.
And there is trial and error. For example, in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, there are creases, there are rough edges. The Supreme Court is conscious of that. That's why the review petition has been admitted. And I'm sure the government of India is also conscious of these creases and rough edges. And so it'll be a joint effort of the legislature, the executive, with checks and balances from the judiciary, to make healthy, reasonable laws to tackle white collar criminality. There has to be a balance between the interests of the society, law enforcement agencies, and the rights of the accused. He must be given a fair trial, ultimately. No innocent should be punished. And why should a guilty go scot-free? That is the purpose of the criminal justice system.
Yeah, in fact, another question that I wanted to put forward is that, a lot of big promoters are in the net, okay, and, they are imprisoned. And, obviously their businesses are suffering. So there is one argument that I hear these days is that, put penalties, big penalties on them, but let them run the businesses, because it is also a matter of so many people's employment, and it is also a matter of companies running, and otherwise companies will go bust and all of that. What do you want to say on this?
It's a very interesting question. You are right in saying there has to be a balance. I'm not in favor of having only fiscal penalties, only monetary penalties, and no jail terms. I'm not in favor of that.
Okay.
I'm in favor of a balance. There has to be a balance between corporal punishment. You need corporal punishment, imprisonment terms to create that deterrence. That before you commit a white collar crime, you should be able to foresee what could be the consequences. At the same time, you can enhance the fines, and a fine can be some kind of an alternative to imprisonment terms or corporal punishment. But there has to be a balance. The two must coexist.
Okay.
Monetary penalties cannot replace corporal punishment. And in a lighter vein, my practice as a criminal side lawyer, must keep flourishing with these big jail terms.
Absolutely. Now, in fact, I'll just, come to my last question, which is more from arbitration viewpoint. How do you see India emerging as an arbitration, hub in the next 5 years? Because right now, people are running to Singapore. There's a lot of work happening in Singapore, even Dubai now. So how do you see India emerging, as a future arbitration hub?
India has the potential, but we are far behind Singapore, London, New York. Even Dubai is emerging as a hot arbitration center. We are evolving, so we have a long way to go, but the processes are in place. The government of India has been proactive in amending the Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 from time to time, to bring it in harmony with the best international practices. So we are evolving as an arbitration center. I see a bright future for India as an arbitration hub in the times to come. First of all, we are a democracy, so that's a huge advantage. But then we have some problems which must be addressed. For example, implementation of the award, the execution of the award.
That is another issue.
That is a big issue. Of course, some ironing out has happened that if you get an award and if you want to challenge it, you must pre-deposit some part of the proceeds of the award so that the winning party gets something. But then that's only halfway to the destination.
Absolutely.
So you have issues, you have problems, but then I foresee India to be a major international arbitration hub in 5 years from today.
Okay. So now, in fact, I will ask one more question, which makes it the last question. Actually, is that and this question is to the author Vivek Sood. So, what's the next book coming up now?
Aman, the next book is closest to my heart, and it releases on the 2nd of December 2022. It is being published by Bloomsbury, and the book is about the criminal justice system in India. Or if I may say so, the criminal injustice system in India. It's a critique on the criminal justice system. It's a book of its first kind. It's a pioneering work. I believe in writing on pioneering subjects. I don't like to repeat what others have written. So it's a strong critique of the criminal justice system. In this book, I have redefined concepts like sedition. I have actually redefined social media abuse. I have written about bail not jail or jail not bail. I have written about how the law of arrest is grossly abused and grossly misused by the law enforcement agencies in India.
And you made a very recent comment also about that. I mean, the recent arrest that has happened.
Yes, I was, yes, people appreciated my comments, but I was trolled as well. But when you are in the public domain, you take bricks and bouquets with the same breath. And then, Aman, I have also written about some interesting cases, like my take on the Arushi murder case and the other cases. And the importance of honest investigation, the importance of fair investigation. And I've written about the law with respect to encounters, fake encounters. So it's, in my view, it's come out to be a very interesting book. Rest is for the reader to judge and decide. I'm
sure it is. I mean, hearing all these things, I'm sure it is going to be one hell of an interesting book. And all the best to you for this book.
Thank you, Aman. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Coming over all the way.
Thank you.
And I enjoyed this interaction with you.
Thank you very much. I am humbled. Thank you.
That was Mr. Vivek Sood, Senior Counsel, Supreme Court of India. I'll see you during our next episode of the Great Legal Mind Show very soon. Thank you.